Commander Tay stood motionless before the holographic display, her tall, slender frame illuminated by the red emergency lights of the Navari Command Center. The tactical map showed the undeniable truth. Their last defensive line at Proxima Station had fallen, 57 Navari warships destroyed in less than 6 hours, 20,000 lives lost. "How many escaped?" she asked quietly. "3 transport vessels," replied Officer Sung, his four-fingered hands trembling as he worked the controls. "Perhaps 2,000 civilians." Tay closed her inner eyelids briefly, a Navari gesture of mourning. The silver markings on her blue skin pulsed with stress as she absorbed the weight of another defeat. The Krell had been unstoppable for nearly 30 years now. System after system had fallen to their perfectly coordinated attacks and advanced technology. Outside the viewport, the crystalline spires of Navari Prime gleamed in the light of twin suns. The capital world of the Confederacy had once been the jewel of the quadrant, a place where 15 species lived together in peace. Now it would be the last to fall. "The Council requests your presence immediately," said a voice behind her. Tay nodded and followed the messenger through the underground tunnels of the military complex. Overhead, civilian evacuation sirens wailed. The Krell would arrive within days. The council chamber was carved from living stone, with its curved ceiling displaying the night sky of every Confederate homeworld. Most of those worlds now burned. Under Krell occupation, 12 council members from different species sat in tense silence as Tay entered. "Commander," said High Elder Park, his reptilian features grave, "we have reviewed your tactical assessment. There is no conventional path to victory." "No, Elder. The Krell's hive mind gives them perfect battlefield coordination. Their ships can fire in unison, move as one body. Our forces fight bravely, but we cannot match their efficiency." Elder Jew, a small furry being from the outer colonies, spoke up. "Their technology is advancing faster than ours as well. Those energy cannons at Proxima weren't in their arsenal 3 months ago." A silence fell over the room until Elder Park touched a control panel. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber, a small blue-green planet orbiting a yellow star. "Earth," Tay whispered. "You can't be serious." "We've discussed this for hours," said Elder Jew. "We need help from someone the Krell haven't encountered before, someone unpredictable." Tay shook her head. "The humans are barely spacefaring. Their longest voyage was to their own moon. They've only had faster-than-light technology for 15 years, and that was because we shared it with them. Yet they've developed over 200 distinct fighting styles," said another council member. "Their military history is nothing but adaptation and improvisation." Elder Park stood, his ceremonial robes flowing around him. "The observation posts we've maintained near Earth report that humans continue fighting long after logical defeat. They have a concept they call going down swinging. They celebrate stories of hopeless last stands." Tay paced before the hologram, her tactical mind racing. "Physically, they're unimpressive. No natural armor, no enhanced strength, poor night vision. Yet they survive on a planet with some of the most varied and extreme conditions in the quadrant," countered Elder Jew. "From Arctic ice to burning deserts to high-pressure ocean depths, they live everywhere." A massive explosion shook the council chamber. Dust fell from the ancient ceiling. "Orbital bombardment," said Officer Sung, checking his comm device. "The Krell Vanguard arrived earlier than expected." Elder Park's voice rose above the panic. "We've received intelligence that the Krell have never encountered humans. Their battle computers have no baseline for human behavior. This is our advantage." Tay watched as security footage appeared on the main screen, recordings of human activities captured by observation drones. Humans climbing sheer cliffs without safety equipment. Humans running races that lasted for days without stopping. Humans diving into burning buildings to save strangers. "They're irrational," she said quietly. "They're our last hope," replied Elder Park. Another explosion rocked the building. Closer this time, the lights flickered. "The diplomatic vessel is prepared," said Elder Jew. "A small team can slip past the Krell blockade using the new stealth technology. We need you to lead this mission, Commander Tay. You've studied Earth more than any other officer." Tay thought of the billions of lives across the Confederacy, the 15 species who had built something beautiful together. All of it about to be extinguished by the relentless Krell swarm. How do we convince them to help us? She asked. Elder Park handed her a crystal data core. We show them the truth. The Krell won't stop with us. Earth is in their expansion path, and we offer them what humans seem to value most, an impossible challenge. As Tay took the data core, the entire room shook violently. Part of the ceiling collapsed, crushing 2 council members instantly. Emergency force fields sputtered to life. Go now, shouted Elder Park as guards rushed into the chamber. Take the ship, find these humans and bring them back before it's too late. Tay ran through the collapsing corridors, the sound of Krell dropships roaring overhead. Her mission was clear but seemed utterly hopeless. Their mighty civilization reduced to begging for help from primitive beings from a backwater planet. Hours later, as her sleek diplomatic vessel slipped between Krell patrol ships and accelerated toward Earth, Tay reviewed the human military footage. Again, they fought differently than any species she'd studied, chaotically, emotionally, sometimes sacrificing logical advantage for psychological effect. Those Krell machines won't know what hit them, whispered her pilot, a young officer named Lee. Tay wasn't convinced, but as the stars streaked past, she allowed herself to feel something she hadn't felt in years, a tiny spark of hope. The Nevari diplomatic vessel descended through Earth's atmosphere under cover of darkness, its advanced stealth systems rendering it invisible to human detection technology. Commander Tay watched through the view screen as the lights of a sprawling coastal city came into view. Seoul, the designated contact point. I still don't understand why we're landing in such a populated area, Officer Lee said, his hands dancing. Across the ship's controls. The human leaders insisted, Tay replied. They want their top military personnel present, but they're unwilling to reveal our existence to their general population. Apparently, they've been preparing for this moment. For decades, ever since our first contact team shared faster-than-light technology with them, the ship touched down silently on the roof of a military intelligence building. As the landing ramp extended, Tay straightened her diplomatic armor and took a deep breath. The fate of 15 species rested on this meeting. 6 humans were waiting, dressed in dark uniforms without insignia. They showed remarkably little surprise at the sight of the blue-skinned, 4-fingered Nevari delegation. Their leader, a stern-faced woman, stepped forward. Welcome to Earth. I'm General Song. We've been monitoring your approach since you entered our solar system. Tay blinked in surprise. The Nevari stealth systems were supposed to be undetectable. General Song smiled slightly at Tay's reaction. We may not have your level of technology, Commander, but we've been preparing for visitors, friendly or otherwise, since your people first contacted us. Inside the building, Tay presented the crystal data core to a room of military and government officials. The holographic display showed the brutal efficiency of the Krell war machine, entire planets reduced to rubble, Nevari defense fleets being methodically destroyed by the insectoid ships that moved with hive-mind precision. The Sioux, Krell have conquered 62 systems in the past 3 decades, Tay explained. Your world is directly in their expansion path. We estimate they will reach Earth within 5 years if not stopped. A short, muscular human with calm eyes spoke up. And you want us to help you fight them? No offense, but we've seen your military capabilities in these recordings. You're clearly more advanced than us. Technology isn't everything, Captain Han, Tay replied. The Krell fight with perfect coordination. Every tactic we develop, they adapt to immediately. We need something they've never encountered before. Chaos, Han said simply. Tay nodded. Precisely. Within 48 hours, Earth's United Defense Council had made its decision. Captain Han would lead 500 Special Forces soldiers, a tiny force by galactic standards, as Earth's first interstellar military deployment. The mission was classified at the highest level, with families told only that their loved ones were on a classified operation. As the human soldiers boarded the 3 Nevari transports a week later, Tay couldn't help but feel a twinge of disappointment. The humans were small compared to many Confederate species. They had no natural armor like the rock-skinned Denobulans, no enhanced strength like the massive Earthans, no specialized senses like the radar-capable Volturi. Just soft, vulnerable. beings in hastily adapted combat suits. "They look like children," Officer Lee whispered as they watched the boarding. Captain Han, overhearing this, approached the Navari officers. "Your doubts are showing on your faces," he said bluntly. "Perhaps a demonstration is in order before we depart." In a massive cargo bay aboard the main transport, Han arranged for his troops to run through combat drills against the Navari's training robots. What followed astonished the alien observers. The human soldiers moved with incredible variety, no two using exactly the same fighting style. When one tactic failed against the robots, they immediately switched to another. They used their environment in ways the Navari had never considered, converting ordinary objects into weapons or tools. Most surprising was their stamina. After 2 hours of continuous drills that would have exhausted Navari troops, the humans were still functioning effectively. "How are they still moving?" Tai asked in amazement. "Persistence hunting," Han explained, drinking water while watching his troops. "Many human cultures evolved chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We can't run as fast as many animals, but we can run longer than almost anything on our planet." As the fleet prepared to jump to light speed, Tai found Han studying the tactical displays of recent Krell movements. "Your soldiers performed impressively in the drills," she acknowledged, "but the Krell aren't training robots. They've conquered species with natural advantages humans don't have." Han nodded, his eyes never leaving the display. "The Krell rely on their hive mind, correct? Perfect coordination?" "Yes, it makes them virtually unstoppable in conventional warfare." Han finally looked up, a small smile forming. "Perfect coordination is only an advantage against enemies who fight conventionally. But humans," he paused, "we've spent our entire history fighting each other. We specialize in asymmetric warfare, guerrilla tactics, psychological operations." He pointed to footage of Krell ships moving in perfect geometric formations. "They fight like machines. We'll fight like humans." During the 3-week journey to the forward base at Proxima Station, Han insisted his soldiers train alongside Navari troops. The differences were stark. Where Navari tactics relied on carefully planned formations and protocols, the humans continually improvised. In one simulation, with all weapons disabled as a challenge, a human sergeant named Yoon and his squad captured a Navari vessel, using nothing but fire suppression equipment and maintenance tools. When asked how they developed such a tactic, Yoon shrugged and said they'd once watched an old entertainment video about it. "They turned disadvantages into advantages," Tai marveled to Officer Lee as they observed another training session. "When we cut their communications, they developed hand signals. When we restricted their movements, they adapted to fight in tight spaces." As they approached Proxima Station, the mood grew tenser. Intelligence reported a massive Krell fleet gathering near the Confederate border. Captain Han gathered his troops for a final briefing. Tai watched from the back of the room, still uncertain whether these strange, soft creatures could possibly make a difference against the Krell. "The enemy has superior numbers, superior technology, and perfect coordination," Han told his soldiers. "But they've never faced humans before." A fierce grin spread across his face. "Let's show them what that means." The command center of the Yi. Confederate outpost on Targus Prime shook violently as another Krell bombardment hit the planetary shields. Atmospheric dust swirled outside the reinforced windows, visibility reduced to mere meters. The massive gas giant the planet orbited filled half the sky with its ominous orange glow. "Shields at 34% and falling," reported a Navari officer, her silver facial markings pulsing with stress. "Krell dropships detected in the upper atmosphere. Estimated time to ground assault, 17 minutes. Commander Tai stood beside Captain Han at the holographic battle table. The human officer had been silent for several minutes, studying the three-dimensional display of Krell ship movements. His eyes narrowed as he traced patterns in their attack formations. "There," Han said suddenly, pointing to the simulation. "Run it again, but at 1/4 speed," Tai signaled, and the battle replay slowed. The swarm of red dots representing Krell ships moved in what appeared to be chaotic patterns. "I don't see anything unusual," Tai admitted. "That's because you're looking for complexity," Han replied. "Look at the simplicity. Every ship follows one of 6 predetermined attack vectors. Every time they face resistance, they cycle through the same sequence of responses. Tay stared at the display with new understanding. They're predictable. Exactly. Han smiled grimly. Perfect coordination comes at the cost of innovation. Their hive mind processes information collectively, but that creates a lag time between encounter and adaptation. A younger human officer named Kang approached with a tablet. "Captain, all squads report ready. The Confederate troops are still organizing their defensive line." Han nodded. "Tell our people we're not waiting. Deploy now, Pattern Sigma." Tay looked alarmed. "But the defensive perimeter isn't established. The Navari and Earthens are still setting up heavy weapons." "That's the point," Han said, already striding toward the exit. "The Krell expect us to establish a defensive line. Their whole attack pattern is designed to break it, so we won't give them one to break." Outside, the 500 human soldiers were splitting into 25 squads of 20 each. Unlike the Confederate forces with their uniform equipment, the humans carried a bizarre variety of modified weapons. Some had repurposed mining tools as melee weapons. Others had attached Navari energy cells to human projectile weapons, creating hybrid guns that fired superheated metal. Tay followed Han to the front line, baffled by the humans' apparent lack of organization. "Captain, what is your strategy here?" "Organized chaos," Han replied, checking his own weapon, a standard-issue Navari pulse rifle that he'd somehow modified to fire in 3-round bursts. "Each squad has independent objectives, no central. Command to disrupt." Before Tay could protest further, the sky darkened as hundreds of Krill dropships punched through the clouds. The insectoid vessels were sleek and black, shaped like arrowheads, moving in perfect geometric formations. As they touched down across the rocky terrain, ramps extended, and the first Krell warriors emerged. They stood over 2 meters tall, with segmented exoskeletons glistening with metallic implants. Multiple compound eyes glowed blue with optical enhancements. Each carried energy weapons that seemed fused to their limbs. "All squads execute," Han said calmly into his comm unit. Then he turned it off completely. What followed confused every non-human observer on the battlefield. Instead of forming a defensive line, the human squads scattered in different directions. Some burrowed into the rocky terrain, others climbed to high vantage points. A few charged directly at the Krell landing zones. The Krell forces, encountering this unexpected deployment, momentarily froze. Their hive mind processed the new information, seeking the pattern, the strategy to counter. In that moment of hesitation, the humans struck. From hidden positions, they opened fire from all directions, not in coordinated volleys, but in staggered, unpredictable bursts. When the Krell finally advanced, they found no main force to engage, just small, highly mobile groups that attacked, retreated, and attacked again from different directions. Tay watched from the command center in astonishment as the holographic battlefield became a swirling mess of contact points. The elegant battle formations of the Krell were fracturing as they chased the elusive human squads. "They're drawing the Krell away from the civilian evacuation zones," Officer Lee realized. Creating dozens of small engagements instead of one large battle, a Navari lieutenant burst into the command center, her armor scorched. "Commander, you need to see this. The humans, they're fighting like nothing I've ever witnessed." On the battlefield, Sergeant Yoon's squad had been pinned down behind a ridge by Krell heavy weapons. 2 of his soldiers were wounded, but instead of retreating, Yoon had them create a distraction with emergency flares, while the rest of the squad circled behind the Krell position. The Krell, programmed to target the most visible threat, focused their fire on the flares while the humans flanked them. In another sector, Lieutenant Kim's unit was surrounded by Krell shock troops. Rather than surrender or fight to the death, the humans feigned retreat, then doubled back through maintenance tunnels and attacked the same Krell unit from behind. Most shocking to the Confederate observers was the humans' response to injury. A Navari soldier struck by Krell weapons would wisely retreat for medical attention. The humans, however, continued fighting despite wounds that should have incapacitated them. "How are they still moving?" gasped a Earthen commander as he watched a human soldier continue advancing despite a severe leg injury. "Adrenaline," Tay explained, remembering her briefings on human biology. Their bodies produce chemicals that temporarily mask pain and enhance strength during danger. After 3 hours of chaotic fighting, something unprecedented happened. The Krell attack faltered. Their perfect formations broke apart as individual units found themselves isolated and surrounded by unpredictable human attacks. Their hive mind, overwhelmed by the need to process countless small unit tactics simultaneously, could no longer coordinate effectively. As the planetary sun began to set, the unthinkable occurred. The surviving Krell forces began to retreat to their dropships. Han returned to the command center, his armor dented and one arm bandaged. Behind him, human soldiers helped wounded comrades and Confederate allies. "They're pulling back," Tay said in disbelief, watching the Krell ships ascend. "In 30 years of war, I've never seen the Krell retreat." Han nodded tiredly. "Their whole combat doctrine relies on predictability, both their own and their enemies. We gave them neither. As night fell on Targus Prime, Confederate medical teams treated the wounded. Despite being outnumbered 10 to 1, the human casualties were surprisingly light. Their unorthodox tactics had confused and divided the superior Krell forces. In the command center, Tay sent an urgent message to Confederate High Command. First engagement with human forces successful. Krell retreat confirmed. Request immediate. Reinforcement of human contingent. They fight unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen. News of the victory at Targus Prime spread across Confederate space like wildfire. For the first time in decades, refugee ships changed course back toward liberated territories. On 3 different worlds, populations under Krell occupation launched uprisings. Inspired by stories of the mysterious human fighters who had forced the invincible enemy to retreat. Confederate High Command wasted no time. Within weeks, transport ships returned to Earth, this time in the open, landing at major military bases around the planet. 5,000 more human soldiers volunteered, eager to join the fight that their comrades had started. Each transport returned filled with troops, weapons, and a resource the Confederacy hadn't felt in years: hope. Aboard the Confederate flagship Eternal Dawn, Commander Tay stood before the holographic star map with a dozen senior officers. The massive vessel's bridge hummed with activity as reports flooded in from across the front. "The humans have helped liberate 3 more systems," reported Admiral Gill, an elderly Navari with faded facial markings. "Their unconventional tactics have proven remarkably effective, particularly when integrated with our conventional forces." On the display, blue markers representing Confederate territory had begun to push back the tide of red that had seemed unstoppable mere months ago. Small, human units attached to larger Confederate battle groups had transformed the conflict. "The Krell are adapting," cautioned General Day of the Earthen Forces. The massive stone-skinned alien pointed to tactical readouts. "Their attack patterns are becoming less predictable. They're studying human methods." Captain Han entered the bridge accompanied by Lieutenant Kim and Sergeant Yoon. The 3 humans looked tiny next to the towering Earthens and the elegant Navari, but the room fell silent at their arrival. They had earned the respect of every species in the Confederacy. "Captain," Tay acknowledged, "the War Council was just discussing the Krell adaptation to our tactics." Han studied the display briefly. "It was inevitable. Their hive mind learns. Slowly, but it does learn." He pointed to a sector near the Galactic core, where an unusually large concentration of Krell ships had gathered. "What's happening here?" Admiral Gill enlarged the sector. "The Krell Emperor's personal armada. Intelligence suggests they're massing for a major counteroffensive targeting human-defended systems. Over 3,000 vessels." The room grew quiet as the implications sank in. Such a force could overwhelm even the most brilliant tactics through sheer numbers. "We should disperse our forces," General Day suggested. "Draw them into smaller engagements where our maneuverability gives us advantage." Han shook his head, a strange smile forming. "No, this is exactly what we want." Tay looked at him with concern. "Captain?" Han stepped closer to the hologram, pointing to a massive ship at the center of the Krell formation. "The Hive Queen, their command vessel, the physical hub of their hive mind network." "Yes," Admiral Gill confirmed. "It coordinates their entire military, but it's the most heavily defended object in the galaxy. Hundreds of ships in layered defense formations. Approaching it would be suicide. Not approaching, Han said. Infiltrating. The War Council erupted in protests. Infiltrate the Krell command ship? Impossible. Madness. Suicide. Han waited for the commotion to settle before explaining. The Krell think collectively. Their security is designed to repel large-scale attacks, but a small team, operating unpredictably. Their defenses have blind spots. Sergeant Yoon displayed a schematic on his tablet. We've analyzed their patrol patterns. There's a maintenance vector through their defensive screen that cycles every 43 minutes. A small, fast ship could slip through, Lieutenant Kim added. Once aboard, we can create chaos in their network. Not just physical sabotage, but psychological warfare. Contradictory information fed directly into their hive mind. Commander Tay studied their faces, looking for signs of doubt, finding none. Over the past months, she had learned to trust human intuition, however bizarre it sometimes seemed. And while we're busy with this infiltration, she asked, what stops their armada from attacking our worlds? Nothing. Han's expression was serious now. That's why we need your fleet to engage them here. He indicated a point just outside. The Krell formation. Make it look like you're attempting a conventional attack. A diversion, Admiral Gill mused, while you sneak in the back door. Exactly. After hours of debate, the War Council approved the plan. The Confederate fleet would mount what appeared to be a major offensive against the Krell armada, drawing attention while Han's team infiltrated the command ship. The human infiltration team consisted of just 12 soldiers, each chosen for specific skills. They boarded a modified scout ship that had been coated with light-absorbing materials and retrofitted with silent running engines. As they prepared to depart, Commander Tay visited the hangar bay. Han was making final checks on the vessel, his movements calm and precise. Your plan defies all conventional military logic, she said. Han smiled slightly. That's why it will work. The Krell understand conventional logic better than anyone. They've spent millennia perfecting it. And if you fail, then you retreat and try something else. Han's eyes met hers. Humans have a saying. No plan survives contact with the enemy. The point isn't to have a perfect plan, it's to be able to adapt when the plan inevitably falls apart. The infiltration ship slipped away from the Confederate fleet, its engines dark, coasting on momentum alone as it approached the vast Krell defensive formation. Timing was critical. They needed to pass through the shifting patrol screen precisely during its brief vulnerability. Aboard the tiny vessel, the human team sat in darkness, conserving power. They had disabled all non-essential systems, even life support relying on their suits for oxygen. Patrol screen approaching, whispered Lieutenant Kim. 30 seconds to insertion point. The massive Krell vessels loomed ahead, their black hulls bristling with weapons and sensor arrays. Between two destroyer-class ships, a gap appeared, exactly as predicted. Now, Han ordered. The scout ship slipped between the Krell vessels with barely meters to spare. Behind them, the Confederate fleet began its attack, thousands of ships engaging the outer defense perimeter of the Krell armada in a spectacular, light show of weapons fire. Approaching the Hive Queen was like flying toward a small moon. The command vessel dwarfed everything around it, its surface covered with communication arrays and dock points for smaller vessels. Maintenance hatch identified, reported Sergeant Yoon, exactly where intelligence said it would be. The scout ship attached to the massive vessel's hull with magnetic clamps, the sound reverberating through their craft like a death knell. If they were discovered now, there would be no escape. Han checked his weapon, a simple projectile gun that would work even in vacuum, unlike energy weapons that could be tracked or jammed. Remember, he told his team, our goal isn't to destroy the ship. It's to create confusion in their network. Hit communication nodes, feed false data into terminals, disrupt their coordination. As they breached the hull and entered the massive ship, the true battle began. Not with weapons, but with chaos. The crystal spires of Navari Prime gleamed in the morning sunlight, restored to their former glory after the long war. The once shattered buildings had been rebuilt, the gardens replanted, the scars of battle erased by months of determined reconstruction. In the grand ceremonial plaza at the heart of the capital, thousands of beings from across the Confederacy gathered for a moment that many had thought impossible just 1 year earlier. The formal end of the Krell War. Commander Tay stood on the ceremonial platform, resplendent in her dress uniform adorned with new medals of valor. Beside her, the Confederate leadership assembled, admirals, generals, and diplomats from 15 species, and at the center of the platform stood Captain Hahn and his core team of human officers, looking almost comically small next to the towering Earthens and the elegant Volturi. "Never thought I'd live to see this day," murmured Admiral Gill, his aged face marked with the silver patterns that indicated a life well lived among the Navari. Tay nodded in agreement. When the Krell command vessel fell silent, I still didn't believe it was possible. The memory of that day remained vivid. The Confederate fleet had engaged the Krell armada in what appeared to be a conventional battle, drawing their attention while Hahn's infiltration team boarded the massive Hive Queen. For hours, the battle had raged, with Confederate ships taking heavy losses. Then, something extraordinary happened. The perfectly coordinated Krell attack patterns began to falter. Ships fired on empty space or flew directly into Confederate trap formations. Some vessels stopped moving entirely, while others retreated without apparent cause. When Tay's forces finally broke through to the command vessel, expecting to rescue whatever survivors might remain of Han's team, they found the humans in control of the bridge, not through overwhelming force, but through calculated chaos. They had moved through the ship in unpredictable patterns, planting conflicting data in the hive mind network, creating feedback loops and contradictory commands that paralyzed the entire Krell military structure. Without central coordination, the mighty Krell armada had fallen into disarray. The empire that had seemed unstoppable for decades crumbled in weeks as individual Krell commanders, suddenly forced to think independently after generations of hive mind direction, made tactical blunders or surrendered outright. Now, exactly 1 year after that decisive battle, the formal peace treaty would be signed. A hush fell over the crowd as the Krell delegation approached the platform. Unlike the warrior drones that had terrorized the galaxy, these were members of the administrative caste, smaller, with more pronounced cranial features suggesting higher intelligence. They moved with uncertainty, unused to functioning without the constant guidance of the hive mind. The lead Krell, introduced as Ambassador Zan, stepped forward. Its segmented exoskeleton gleamed in ceremonial oils, and translator devices hung from its sensory appendages. "The collective acknowledges defeat," Zan stated, its translated voice emotionless but clear. "For the first time in 17,000 cycles, the expansion has been reversed. The terms of peace are acceptable." The treaty itself was straightforward. The Krell would withdraw to their original territories. All conquered worlds would be returned to the Confederacy. A demilitarized zone would be established between their territories. As the document was displayed for all to see, Ambassador Zan turned to Captain Han, compound eyes glittering with what might have been curiosity. Query: how did inferior biological units overcome superior Krell coordination and technology? Analysis indicates physical capabilities below Krell. Baseline: technological development inferior, numerical advantage absent. The question hung in the air, not just from the defeated Krell, but unspoken from many in the Confederate alliance who still marveled at what the humans had accomplished. Han looked thoughtful for a moment before answering. "You're right that we're not the strongest species. We don't have natural armor or enhanced senses. Our technology was behind yours." He gestured to the humans scattered throughout the crowd. The 5,000 who had come from Earth had now grown to 20,000, as more volunteers arrived to help with reconstruction efforts. But humans didn't evolve to be the strongest or fastest. We evolved to adapt, to endure, and to overcome impossible odds together. On our world, we were never the dominant species in terms of physical prowess. We had to outthink predators, survive in environments ranging from Arctic ice to burning deserts. Han smiled slightly. "Your hive mind gave you perfect coordination, but it also gave you perfect predictability. Every problem had one optimal solution. Humans see 1,000 possible solutions to every problem." Ambassador Zan's translator clicked rapidly as it processed this. "Inefficient, resilient," Han corrected. When one approach fails, we try another and another. We keep going long past the point where logic says we should surrender. As the treaty was formally signed, holographic displays around the plaza showed similar ceremonies taking place on liberated worlds across Confederate space. The war that had seemed endless for decades was officially over. At the reception afterward, Commander Tay found herself standing with Captain Han on a balcony overlooking the city. Ships from dozens of worlds filled the skies, their lights twinkling. Against the deepening twilight, Earth has formally joined the Confederacy, she told him. The council vote was unanimous. Han nodded, watching a group of human engineers below as they worked alongside Navari architects, redesigning defensive systems based on principles developed during the war. "I've been meaning to ask you something," Tay said after a moment. "That day on the Krell command ship, how did you know your plan would work?" "Their defenses were impenetrable," Han smiled. "We didn't know. But humans have a strange relationship with impossible situations. Tell us something can't be done, and we immediately start trying to prove you wrong." Across the galaxy, the integration of human thinking was transforming Confederate society. Military academies now taught human tactical approaches alongside conventional doctrine. Engineering teams incorporated the creative problem-solving that had proven so effective against the Krell. As night fell on Navari Prime, the ceremonial lights of the peace celebration illuminated the sky. Commander Tai watched human children playing with young Navari, already teaching them Earth games and learning alien languages with remarkable speed. "Your people called us unpredictable, chaotic, even irrational when we first arrived," Han observed. "Now, those same qualities are seen as virtues." Tay nodded. The galaxy had misunderstood humanity's greatest strength. Not your bodies or your technology, but your indomitable spirit. A spirit that simply refuses to accept defeat. As the stars emerged above the healed city, representatives of 16 species, now including humanity, raised glasses in a toast to peace, to survival, and to the unexpected allies who had changed the course of galactic history by simply refusing to lose. The end.